You okay with that?
Yeah, I don't mind. Even if I'm alone at school, I have you guys to hang out with, so it's all good.
No cap. No cap. No cap.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll just take that advice. Ain't no capping in this video. Sup YouTube, Livecast here, and today we're going to be giving a review on Melty Blood Type Lumina. I know for this game it's off-putting to some people, and also some people really enjoy it, so I would like to go in depth on what I think about the game and is it really worth your money. Developed by Soft Circle French Bread, Melty Blood Type Lumina has stunning 2D artwork. Even though the game has a 12-man roster, each of the characters look and feel alive in the style. The proof is in their idle animations alone. Look at how happy they made my girl Kohaku sweeping that floor, or how villainous they made Michael Jackson look as he milli rocks side to side. But the reason I'm really impressed by this is for the subtle details that went into stoic poses, such as CL and Coma, where you can see their breathing as their chest expands and contracts. Needless to say that the backgrounds also look amazing and have a nice variety of locations that complement the characters. Now, one common criticism you'll hear regarding this game's appearance is that the character designs look plain. So if this is an issue for you, let me at least tell you this. This game is a spin-off to the mainline Tsukihime visual novel series in which this franchise originates. So in other words, you were already supposed to have an attachment to the characters before you bought the spin-off, which is Melty Blood. Now, unfortunately, the visual novel genre isn't popular in the West as it is in Japan, so not a lot of people got attached to the Tsukihime characters, but as a person who has read the manga, I can at least tell you that although their designs look plain, the characters themselves and their stories are not. Well, lucky for us, Melty Blood Type Lumina is a prequel to the Tsukihime series, so let's see how well the characters were represented in the single-player content. Melty Blood stays relatively traditional when it comes to offline content. First, there is versus mode where you fight the CPU and you can set the CPUs to fight each other. From there you have the standard score attack, time attack, and survival modes that are all staples in the fighting game genre. Not to mention there's a mission mode to try out combos to learn your character and a story mode for each character in the roster. And if I were to give my honest opinion, the story is disappointing. Here's why. The first problem with the story is that it already assumes that you've played the visual novel because it expects you to know who the characters are and it expects you to know the lore terminology. I played the three main characters, Shiki, Akiha, and Arcade stories, and neither one provided sufficient world building to understand the Melty Blood universe or an explanation to who these characters are individually and their backstories. So if a newcomer comes to play this mode, they won't know any of these characters better than had they just not played the story at all. And when you throw in lore words such as Dead Apostle or True Ancestor, expect them to be confused. This means that the newcomer will have to search for solutions to these problems outside of the game, which is a big ask for a game that's supposed to be a prequel. The second problem is that the entire story is basically a bad filler. Now, it's told in arcade mode with 7 stages, which isn't an issue, but you only get the storytelling on stages 1, 4, and 7. And let me tell you how boring the storytelling is. Basically, its X character senses a disturbance in the force, so they leave their house to go check it out. They'll run across a random character on the roster in the process, and when they reach the final stage, they'll find out that the cause was Vlov. You'll get a pointless conversation, and then you'll fight Vlov, you'll beat Vlov, and then story is over. If you don't believe me, go look it up. I think that the story is rather sleeper, and I doubt even a Tsukihime fan will be satisfied with it. Unfortunately, I believe that the rest of the offline experience doesn't make up for the poorly executed story mode. Remember when I said that Melty Blood stays relatively traditional to its offline modes? Well, the problem with traditionalism is that it doesn't challenge the status quo, and most people I know aren't interested in score attack, time attack, and survival mode, and usually story mode is what helps differentiates one fighting game's offline experience from another, and Melty Blood drops the ball on that one, which can produce the feeling that the entire offline experience is lackluster. If I were to describe Melty Blood's gameplay in one word, it'd be untraditional. For one, this game is expressive in its movement. Each character has access to a super jump, double jump, and an air dash. And you can even super jump in the air after a regular jump, or do 2 super jumps consecutively into an air dash. The possibilities in the air almost feel endless, which gives this game a different feel than your average fighting game. The next thing is the rapid beat system, which allows you to press any normal into any button combination you like. And this means you can do the traditional light, medium, heavy, or rapid beat and do medium, light, heavy, and so on and so forth. As a side note, there's also an auto combo system you can do by pressing any of the 3 attack buttons repeatedly, so this makes the game easier to get into for newbies. There's also the traditional meter system giving you access to EX moves and ultimate attacks. But what makes Melty Blood different is how you can use your meter defensively with the heat system. Starting with the minimal cost of 1 bar, you can press A plus B plus C to cash out any meter you've acquired to enter this state. The startup of heat has invincibility, and once in, you regain blue life health until the heat timer is over. Another thing on defense is the shield system. By pressing D, you put up a shield, and if your opponent makes contact with it, you can follow up by pressing A, B, or B plus C to basically play a mini game of rock, paper, scissors with your opponent. Lastly is the moon gauge. You can spin the gauge to do moon specials, or you can spin the gauge to enter moon drive. And while in moon drive, you obtain increased mobility and you still have access to the enhanced specials, but they now have clash frames on startup, making them more useful in neutral. Now that we have a basic understanding of the mechanics, let me give you my opinion. As stated previously, Melty Blood's gameplay is untraditional, so I think there are certain aspects to the game's combat that you must accept in order to have fun long term. Specifically, I believe there are 5 hurdles to enjoyment, and I'm not saying anything on this list is bad, I'm just saying that these things are different. The first hurdle is that there is no reliable anti-air. This game gives every character the universal anti-air 3C with head invulnerability, but the move has a startup of 12 frames, which is slow, and the head invulnerability from 3C isn't instant, so it gets stuffed out quite frequently. It also doesn't have good horizontal reach, so this gives it a high probability of whiffing, which is something that you don't want to do because the move has a long recovery time. Well, since there isn't a reliable anti-air in the game, you'll be relying on your movement to compensate, and this will lead to a lot of air-to-air interactions, which again isn't a bad thing, it's just different. The second hurdle is the auto combo system, and I propose that this makes the game harder to learn. You cannot press the same button twice in a block string / combo, or you'll trigger the auto combo system, and once in this state you're locked out of using any more normals, so you only get out by finishing the auto combo or canceling into a special move. This isn't an issue long term because you'll just make your inputs cleaner to deal with it, but I bet a good chance that every player at least had the passing thought in their mind saying, I wish I could turn this off. The third hurdle is armored overheads and unblockables. Now this one is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of overheads and unblockables in this game have clash frames on them. This means you'll most likely lose pressing any button to contest them, and for the unblockables you cannot even block them low. I can see this being a pretty shocking revelation to anyone new trying the game, so don't worry because there is a solution. You must do a standing shield in order to defend against the unblockable safely, which brings me to my next point. The fourth hurdle is something I'm sure you all wanted me to talk about: the defensive mechanics, shield, heat, and moon drive. Let's tackle shield first. I already mentioned that it initiates rock, paper, scissors, and this is because your opponent can shield in response to your own, and this small minigame can keep going infinitely until someone guesses correctly. Shield also comes out on frame 1, so it's a viable option against meaties to play this minigame on Wake Up, and while there are solutions to shield, such as mixing up your overheads, lows, and throws, I believe the reason shield is so potent is because the reward is so high that you're pretty much guaranteed a shield war against every single opponent you play. The only low reward follow-up to shield is the B version on regular hit, and I don't believe shield do nothing is a solution because it just adds another mind game to the already potent rock, paper, scissors. So the bottom line is this: if you don't like this mechanic, you won't like this game. The next defensive mechanic is heat. Now, most people are okay with this because it's pretty slow and can be option selected easily. The only thing ridiculous about it is that you only need 1 bar to activate it, which can help put you on tilt after you work past this OD mechanic called Moon Drive. As we already know, Moon Drive gives clash frames to Moon skills. However, what I didn't tell you is that the Moon Drive startup is frame 1 invulnerable, and it pauses the screen briefly. This means that the opponent can wake up, pop Moon Drive, and immediately Moon skill, blowing up meaties and blocking. The solution is to option select this by doing a 1A AD, and this option select allows you to continue a 2A meaty if your opponent doesn't wake up Moon Drive, and if they do decide to Moon Drive, you will automatically shield. If your opponent makes contact with your shield by doing a Moon skill, they will not be able to jump or escape. However, this option select has counterplay to it too, because the opponent can just throw you after activating Moon Drive, abusing its slowdown. Now, there's an answer to this too, but my point is this. A Moon Drive on Wake Up guarantees a rock, paper, scissors situation for the defender. The only real way to avoid Wake Up Moon Drive rock, paper, scissors is Moon Drive. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. Remember, it's a no cap review. I find that corny. All right? My problem with Moon Drive is that it's up 24/7 because you only need half Moon Gauge to use it, and Moon Gauge is stupid easy to build in this game, so it's something that you're gonna see often. Now, I believe that Moon Drive was supposed to be an offensive mechanic, but using Moon Drive like this is so powerful, hardly anybody uses it offensively. My overall point with the 4th hurdle is that the aggressor always has to watch out for something on Oki. Does my opponent have access to Moon Drive? Do they have 1 bar of meter to enter heat with? Ah shoot, but what if they shield? I guarantee you the defender always has one of these options open, and again, I call this untraditional because usually in fighting games, the defender is looking out for the aggressor. So why don't I call these mechanics bad? Because the flip side is that you always feel like you have a fighting chance on defense. This game gives the defender the feeling that you have a resource, even 1 bar, you can make it work. I think this game will evolve to stress high importance on meter management at the upper levels. So what's the last hurdle? The last hurdle is universal in every single fighting game, so I won't spend too long on it, but it's good old character-specific cancer. For example, you have Koma's super armor or Velov's zoning, sprinkled with maid traps that never leave the screen, and a 12-year-old Sonic the Hedgehog with unreactable side switches, and the list goes on. All these things have solutions to them, but do you feel like putting in the effort to deal with them if you already have an issue with the untraditional mechanics? Now, these are questions that I can't answer for you, and only you can answer for yourself. One thing I appreciate about Melty Blood Online is that it gets straight to the point. The menus are quick, so there aren't long wait times to get into the network, and once in, there isn't a lobby system like Granblue or Strive, so you can get a lot of games in a short amount of time. The first mode is Ranked, where you'll compete to obtain RP and grade. RP is a number that you lose or gain depending on if you win or lose a match, and I've noticed that you lose significantly less RP when you lose as opposed to how much you gain when you win. But this doesn't matter because you get to choose your opponent in Ranked, which unfortunately allows this system to be manipulated. Next is Grade, and it's a letter right next to your name that goes from E to S+. Grade is supposed to be a representation of your skill level, but you only go up or down a grade if you fight a player with the exact same grade as your own. This means that once you reach your desired grade, it becomes very easy to protect it because again, you get to select your opponent. And although opponent choice has its negatives, I prefer it this way because Ranked becomes a good place to get serious matches in order to practice against a specific matchup. The next mode is Player Match, and it's in a round-robin room system with a maximum capacity of 8 people. If there is a player in front of you, you can either spectate or choose to wait in training mode. And personally, I wish there was an option to take it off round-robin and have a feature to where multiple players can play at the same time, but that's just me. One feature that is unique to Melty is that you can set the input delay to ease the amount of rollback you could potentially experience in your matches. My only issue with this is that your opponent can set the input delay too, and there is no way to talk to the person to get it on the same setting for an optimal netcode experience for both players. Speaking of netcode, I would call Melty Blood's netcode good, but it does have a few issues. There's an issue in the game currently that if you skip the intro, the match will lag, and I think it's because the game is trying to finish syncing with your opponent, but who knows. The second issue I have with the netcode is that it rollbacks in the midst of a combo. I don't understand this because what does the game think I'm trying to do while I'm getting hit? Do a super? My last and biggest issue with Melty Blood's Online is that it doesn't tell you enough information on who you want to play with. The game don't tell you who on Wi-Fi, and more importantly, it doesn't display ping. Instead, you have this ambiguous bar system, so you can't tell who got rats in their router and who don't. I've had 3 bars with players where everything ran smooth, and other times where I've had 3 bars where it feels like I'm playing Dragon Ball Z Melty Blood Edition. It can be quite unpredictable when the game wants to act up, which isn't a good feeling. Despite all the stuff I said, I still think Melty Blood's netcode is good simply because it has rollback. Rollback netcode is infinitely better than frame delay in my opinion, but if more fighting games come out with rollback and it becomes the new norm, I believe that Melty Blood's Online will fall to the wayside if these issues are not addressed. I wanted to mention a few things first before we get to the verdict. Believe it or not, I didn't know how to fit training mode into the script. I'll say this about it, it's serviceable. It lacks a bit of quality of life like no frame data or no replay books like Strive, but it's serviceable and it works. It's miles better than the Actress Again current code Melty Blood where you had to pause the menu just to reset position. Next is the replay system. You can download other players' replays online, but the actual replay player is weak. You can't rewind or fast forward, and you can't even skip by rounds. This makes analyzing your footage a chore, so I'm only going to use this mode for the occasional ego boost. One good feature though is the character color editor. The only issue with it is that your options are limited by the 10 color presets that come with your selected character. I think they limited it this way to monetize colors in the future, but we'll see. The last thing I wanted to mention is the music, but you can count my own incompetence for that. I didn't know how to describe music outside of, hey, it sounds good, bro. So every song you've heard in this video has been this own game soundtrack. I like the music, and if you don't, you have no soul. Now without further ado, let's tune into the verdict. Melty Blood is an untraditional fighter with traditional modes. If you are looking for a fighter with great defensive options, this is it. And since that's the case, I don't see this being everyone's cup of tea. The main reason for its C rank is because the game lacks polish on everything outside of gameplay. Lackluster story, no rewind or fast forward in replays, no Wi-Fi or ping indicators, can't skip intro due to lag, and the list goes on. With every good thing about this game, there seems to be something missing or some old school problem that feels like I'm playing a game made in 2012. Melty Blood, although, is a great game underneath all these issues, which is why it's a C rank. But in my opinion, it needed more time in the oven. I would recommend getting this game when the price drops or when the devs release a roadmap showing future DLC and online improvements. And that concludes my opinion on Melty Blood. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about my first review. And with that being said, people, we are about to head out.